Every month, we highlight live music events in our listening region. Josh Gross, a musician, writer, and critic, joins host Jeffrey Riley with the sounds of 5 bands performing this month.
Josh Gross, thanks for joining us once again on the Jefferson Exchange. Always good to have you.
Always good to be had, Jeffrey.
And what a good list for this month. I had a chance to go through all these clips in advance because I had to assemble them for airplay. And boy, some fun stuff. I can't honestly say there's ever been a month when you didn't deliver a lot of fun stuff, though.
Well, I wouldn't be very good at my job if I didn't do that. But thank you very much. Yeah, like I always say, this is actually a great market for live music because we're in between 2 big places that a lot of people want to go, and they figure they got to stop for gas anyway. So you get some really cool stuff, and you get some really cool stuff that's on the come up, because it hasn't gotten too big for you to not be able to afford it yet, or for them to not bother with us. And so I think this is a great place to see really interesting groups that are sort of like about to be, the next big thing, or they're part of a sound that's about to be the next big thing. And I think we got a couple of those mixed in here today.
So we're not flyover, or in this case, drive-through country. I mean, the band that's playing in Portland one night and San Francisco 2 nights later, they're not willing to skip us at this point.
Well, no, we are, but we're flyover for stuff you already know about. That's the thing. We're stop towns for things that are really interesting and on the come up. Like, Van Halen's never going to stop here. It's not worth their time. But like Van Halen would have stopped here, when no one knew who they were yet, and that's the time to really see them, because then you get that like, wow, that was. You see it and you're like, I know that's going somewhere. Mm-hmm. And you get something special, and I think you don't get as much of that in big markets because it's already too big for you, even there.
All right, let's pick it up with, how do you pronounce it? Is it Orgone?
I believe it is pronounced Orgone. Like you're mispronouncing Oregon, basically.
Okay. I had a feeling it was a play on something like that. So here is Orgone coming to Bruno's Cavern in Cave Junction.
When I'm with you, and you keep me working for love. You keep me working for love. You got me working.
Some nice crunchy stuff in there. I noticed that the bands you provide for us are these are people who know how to work their instruments.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're not the ones who are just grinding away on their 2 chords.
No. I mean, that's nothing against grinding away on 2 chords. You can make some great songs with that. Fleetwood Mac has some wonderful 2-chord songs. But these guys can really play. I saw them once in Boise, and that was definitely the takeaway. I was like, wow, that is just an impressively talented group of people. They're all from L.A. I think they sort of drew from a series of like really well-known session players who worked in a lot of like funk and hip-hop sessions. So they've just really got a fantastic stage presence, and they make for a really fun, dancey, funky show. Like just a lot of great grooves, a lot of funk and soul, and just like that real sort of daptone stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So that's Orgone is coming to. It just feels weird to say that, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It really. Yeah. It feels like you're saying Willamette or something.
Exactly.
Like
I spent 40 years drumming Oregon out of my system from the East Coast, and here we are. Yeah. So they're coming to Bruno's Cavern in Cave Junction on the 9th of April. Next up on our list is it pronounced Vertycan Materializer?
Your guess is as good as mine. These guys are. I think they like it being unpronounceable, but yeah, let's hear something from them.
I would like to leave now and avoid the Brazilian who would harvest the information.
I have to tell you, I was a little surprised, Josh, when I got to look at the YouTube page for VAM, Vertycan Materializer, and noticed that they refer to themselves as quiet, gentle death metal with a happy ending.
Yeah, right? Death metal has like a bad rap because it's sort of like people think it's just this like wall of unintelligible noise, when in fact it's really interesting sort of stuff that explores, uses a particular art form to explore interesting themes that are kind of universal to the human experience. And, these guys are just doing it with a sort of slightly different sound palette. Their description of it is that they say they're trying to describe the sort of like sounds of the Talking Heads and Radiohead with the sort of despondent drones of Flipper, whatever that means. But I mean, like, it's fun. It's doing something very, very different, and there are these really interesting nuggets of pop music sort of buried within it. And as I understand it, their live shows include a lot of sort of like slide projections and, you know, sort of interesting pieces of like noise and like, visual performance art. So I think they're going to do a really interesting show. And, they've got a great local band playing with them as well. Names escaping me at the moment, but it's going to be a really good lineup that night. I think at Johnny B's on the 12th of Medford of April.
April, yeah. And I'm trying not to slip into my grandfather voice here, but how can it be death metal if it doesn't have a metal sound to it?
I mean, there's acoustic metal. I mean, it's there's cello metal. I think a lot of metal people would tell you metal's kind of a state of mind. Something has to do with it just being like certain themes that you're exploring, certain sort of like musical techniques. It doesn't necessarily have to be all just overdriven guitars and pounding drums. I mean, there's the classic. You remember the movie Forrest Gump, where there's a whole thing where he's talking about all the different kinds of shrimp.
Oh yes.
yeah. That's people do that with metal all of the time. There's this infinite sub varieties of metal that can do. There's black metal, Swedish metal, death metal, sub metal, Florida metal, power metal, thrash metal. You can just go on forever. And so why not acoustic death metal? Why not soft death metal? It's just as valid.
Wow, that was a great story to tell that, to give the example there. It was a good job there, Josh.
Glad to help.
Josh Gross is with us for this month's edition of Rogue Sounds here on the Jefferson Exchange. Moving on now to a band called Hutchie.
Yeah, these guys are great.
All right, let us hear Hutchie coming to Local 31 in Ashland on the 14th of April. I really want to sing backup vocals for these guys almost instantly.
You know what? Show up, Jeffrey. Maybe they'll let you. You never know. Jump on stage. It works more often than you think.
I mean, the stuff that ever since we started recording Rogue Sounds now, I'm standing up when I do this, and so I really feel like I want to dance and start yelling out without giving you a heart attack at the top of my lungs.
Here's the thing. If you're going to do that, I think you're going to have to do one of those YouTube live streams that a lot of radio people do, because I really feel like the JPR audience needs to see you dancing.
I was afraid you'd suggest that. I hesitated to bring it up in the first place.
I'm determined to get you to drop some freestyle raps one of these days. But I don't know. Come down to the Hutchie show. Maybe they'll let you jump on stage. I know people who've jumped on stage with random bands and then they ended up in the band before. Like, it's a thing that happens. So give it a shot.
All right. So what can you tell us about Hutchie? Where are they from?
Hutchie is from Seattle, and they just got a great sort of storytelling, songwriting style, and I think they really sort of embody that idea that, like, what makes for a great song is just, three chords and a story to tell. They got, a story to tell, and they got three chords. A lot of their shows, they kind of vacillate back and forth between doing acoustic shows and full electric shows, like the track we just heard. But they write songs that really, like, can be sort of be ported back and forth one between the other, where it's like you strip it away to nothing, to just the acoustic guitar, you still got a great thing, but then you throw the whole instrumentation behind it, and then it's just like, well, now I want to dance. But it still really grabs you, because I think songwriting, songcraft is like the core of what really makes for, like great pop music. It's things that people just can relate to. It's stuff that anyone can say, like, yeah, I get that. I get, leaving your clothes at someone's house just to have an excuse to come back, because you don't want to, like, freak them out in a new relationship. That makes sense.
Yeah. Josh Gross with us once again for Rogue Sounds here on the Jefferson Exchange. Hutchie will be at Local 31 in Ashland on the 14th of April. And then on the 16th of April, we have the California Honeydrops coming to Ashland Armory. And let's just go straight to them.
Yeah.
Makes me think you so hot, a soft spot for sunshine or sorrow. Still I know tomorrow. In blue skies or rain, I keep on falling again and again for you. Ooh, it's true, baby.
Okay, here's my second claim for wanting to get in on backup vocals. That's some wonderful stuff.
Isn't it? I feel like these guys may be a little harder to jump in on background vocals. They're a little bit higher up in the world. And their stuff is really tight, you know, like you got to make sure you nail those harmonies. But it's just so groovy. Like, how can you not like it? It just makes you feel good, you know? Like I almost don't even want to know a whole ton about them because I just like it. It's just good. It really sort of leans into that, like, sort of 60s soul Sam and Dave sound.
Absolutely.
You know, just groovy tunes that make you want to vibe, you know? Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, we'll fix that.
Yeah.
So we have, so this is California Honeydrops coming to the Ashland Armory again on the 16th of April. And then we have one more band to talk about, and that is No Lights coming to the Dip in Reading on the 27th of April. So let's get them
these
cranked
guys are
up.
cool.
I'm a bastard, swimming in overflown sewer. Let's see you from echoes upward, towering prey, down into the void. Your hand blossoms like an orchid when it's drowning.
And that is called Worm's Eye View from No Lights. What can you tell us about this band?
You know, not a whole lot. They played a little close to the chest. They're from San Francisco, and they're kind of like real great example of the sort of like modern resurgence of the sort of post-punk sound. Never heard of post-punk. It's kind of like bands that kind of came from the sort of like punk subculture, but wanted to broaden the sort of sonic palette a little more beyond just like, you know, a lot of furious downstrumming and like, you know, the Ramones style, like just rock and roll, and give it just some like, here's some sort of interesting sort of textures, you know, sort of stuff that started with like bands like New Order, you know. And I think these guys have they have these great, really intriguing song hooks, and then they just sort of do some interesting noises on top of it, and it grabs you. It's very arresting, you know?
Mm-hmm. It is, and I remain impressed once again, not only with the musicianship, but also with the ability in the digital age to just layer all kinds of stuff on top of what your basic sound is.
Well, and you know, what's fascinating is how much of that stuff is actually happening live on stage too. Like less of it is studio tricks, I think, than you'd think, because there's such great on-stage technology now with looping and just interesting reverbs and, you know, delay pedals and just lots of stuff, and the much more accessible synthesizers are much more accessible now than their sort of early days when they cost like, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and took up a whole room. And now it's like, you know, little box you can carry in a suitcase that only costs a couple $100. So these are things, you know, these tools are available to almost anyone to use on stage and in the studio, and it really does broaden up the palette. So you could be playing the same 3 chords that Hutchie was doing, but it can sound absolutely nothing like it. And I think that's a fascinating, you know, way to take things.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so let's go through the list once again before we have to go. Josh Gross finishing up Rogue Sounds with us here on the Jefferson Exchange. Orgone, Orgone, at Bruno's Cavern in Cave Junction. April 9th, Vertycan Arc Materializer at JB's in Medford on April 12th. Hutchie at Local 31 in Ashland, April 14th. California Honeydrops at Ashland Armory on April 16th. And No Lights at the Dip in Reading on April 27th. Josh Gross, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, Jeffrey.
All right, take care.